Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel for another video. Today we're going to be talking about stadiums in MLB The Show 20. When I was first getting into MLB The Show, one of the biggest questions I had was about what stadium to play at. Why are people playing at minor league stadiums and not major league stadiums, and a whole bunch of things with regards to that. So today we're going to talk about all discussions related to stadiums, choosing a stadium that fits your play style so you could succeed more in ranked seasons, BR, wherever you're playing. We're gonna try to go through everything stadium related today. And then before we get into the video, if you learned something new, make sure to like the video and subscribe down below in case you have not already. Also, I don't really plug it often on the channel, but I want to throw it out there. We have our merch store, so if you want to support the channel, that link will be down in the description if you want to get a shirt with my logo on it, or a shirt like this with an MLB The Show meme on, because haha, get it? He botches it? I'm so funny, aren't I? Yeah. But yeah, make sure to check out that link in the description if you want to support the merch store, support the channel, so I can produce better content for you all. And other than that, I think we'll get right into the video from this point on. Alright, so here we are. We're looking at the stadium list here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about a couple things in regard to stadium. Why do different stadiums play different than each other? What is the difference between choosing one stadium over the other? So we're going to talk about the time of the day and the time of the year, which determines how the stadium plays. The stadium dimensions in terms of how big they are. Also, we're going to talk about the setting of the stadium and how elevation is a factor in choosing a stadium. And then also, we're going to talk about why people don't normally play at major league stadiums, because if you're relatively new to Diamond Dynasty, you see a lot of people play at minor league stadiums over major league stadiums. So let's talk about that first. So basically, when you get higher in ranked seasons, if you're playing on a higher level of ranked seasons, or if you're playing at Battle Royale mode, you'll see a lot of times people are playing at one of these minor league stadiums, and that's normally because at major league stadiums, there's like this weird lag when you go to swing, and it's not the most noticeable thing, but a good player can usually pick up on it. So a lot of times you'll go to swing, and there's like a little bit of a input lag, so you hit the button X and it seems like there's a little bit of a delay with your swing. There's some wonkiness with some stadiums that have a lot of fans, so like major league parks, some classic stadiums where they have a lot of fans. It seems like the PS4 doesn't process it all easy, so there's like some weird lag involved. So you see a lot of people play at minor league stadiums, and if you're playing ranked at a high level, or if you're playing BR, trying to go 12-0, I really suggest you do play at a stadium with less fans, just so you can make sure you don't deal with that lag, because trust me, it can kind of interfere with your gameplay even if you notice it or not. Let's talk about all the stadiums in general and kind of how it works when you're choosing a stadium. First of all, let's talk about the time of the day and the year. Basically, when you're choosing a stadium, you get this little screen here. This is offline, but it's very similar to Diamond Dynasty. You could choose the time of the year and the time of day. And both these are important when you're trying to choose a stadium that fits your play style. So if you choose a game in June, for example, which is in the middle of the summer, in comparison to a game in October, the ball should fly more. It should move through the air easier in the summer game of June, for example, in comparison to October, because normally October it's colder out. The ball doesn't fly as much because the lower temperatures, the air is more dense. So that means the ball isn't going to fly across the stadium as easily. And trust me, in this game, it is something that plays. It's not the most noticeable at all times, but if you're trying to be a better pitcher, you're going to want to choose a game in October so the ball doesn't fly as much, you don't give up as many homers. And then vice versa, if you want to be a better hitter, you choose a game in the summer. Stuff like that are things you have to account for when you're choosing a stadium when you're playing Diamond Dynasty. Also, the time of the day works in a very similar fashion. If you play in the daytime in the afternoon, for some reason, the ball flies better. It's because the air is lighter, I guess you could say. So the ball flies a little bit easier in the middle of the day in comparison to the nighttime. Again, this one isn't that dramatic in my opinion, but some stadiums, I think, it could completely change how they play based on the time of the day. So if you really want to play for the right experience, choose the right time of day. And also, by the way, if you choose a time of the day that's cheesy with the batter's eye in center field, so you make it hard for you and your opponent to hit, don't do that, okay? I mean, it works, but don't do it. It's cheesy, okay? The next part is really what's going to be the bigger difference. And we're going to talk about stadium setting and stadium dimensions. First of all, the setting of a stadium is very important. So let's just look at a comparison here of some minor league parks. You all know the legend itself of Ship It Stadium. The reason people love to play at this park is because it has a high elevation like Coors. If you watch Major League Baseball, you know, Coors Field in Colorado, the ball flies there because it's a high elevation. It has higher elevation above sea level in comparison to most other stadiums, so that means that the air quality is a lot less dense. So that means that the ball will just absolutely fly at a place like Coors. A stadium like Bayfront Park here, I find the ball tends to die a bit because it's literally at sea level. It's right next to an ocean. It's right at sea level. It's further down than Coors, meaning the air is a little bit more dense. So some parks like Bayfront here will have an issue of the ball flying as much as a place like Ship It. And then finally, we'll talk about dimensions. And this is the scale of the walls in the outfield. So a big factor when choosing a stadium is the dimensions. So let's look at an example here. So let's look at Barnes Canyon here. So if you look at this park, it doesn't look like anything crazy, but here's what you have to focus on. It is 420 feet to center field. So that means that you'll get a lot of perfect flyouts if you play at this park, if they fly out to center field. 420 feet is not easy to hit. Like, only the best power players in the game can hit 420-foot homers easily. And even with that kind of power, you could still get outs at a park like this. So Barnes Canyon here, for example, has a crazy set of dimensions and is also not like Laughing Mountain Park, which has the exact same dimensions as the elevation. So basically, when you're looking for a stadium, you want to look for a stadium that fits the dimensions for the play style that you want. We kind of just talked about the basics of how each stadium plays different from each other. Let's categorize stadiums based on most players' play styles, whether you're a better hitter, a better pitcher, or you're kind of in between and you're good at pitching and hitting, or you just suck at both, whatever you feel. So let's talk about 3 different categories of stadiums that could fit your play style. So in case you're trying to just get into DD and you're looking for a stadium that fits you, we'll give you some options so you don't have to look at these stadiums and decide yourselves. Based on how I've played at these stadiums and what I hear other people talk about these stadiums, I put all these into 3 categories. So let's talk about neutral parks. So I kind of call these neutral parks where, you know, it can go either way. You could have games where you just put up a huge amount of runs here, hit so many jacks, or you could have those games where you can actually pitch well. So I think these parks are the most well-rounded parks where you can actually pitch and not give up crappy swings for homers all the time. But if you get good swings on the ball, you'll get rewarded by homers here. So here's a small list of stadiums for you to look at. Capitol Field is my personal favorite stadium. I love this park, but sometimes you play it at nighttime, the ball tends to die here, so I would suggest to play during the daytime if you're playing at Capitol. We have Date Palm Field, which is a spring training park. Franco Park is another option as well. All-American Park is another option. The Porch is another neutral field. Statesman Park is another one. Again, I don't really play here much, but it looks like it would be pretty similar to, say, a Capitol Field. Oak Street Park as well. These parks I would suggest the most if you're unsure of a park to play, because if you're starting out in Diamond Dynasty, you don't really know if you're a better hitter or a pitcher. So these are good parks to play at that are pretty well balanced. Nothing too crazy happens. Sometimes you get some weird fluky home runs where the player gets underneath the ball a bunch and they somehow carry out. And sometimes you have those games where you just can't buy a hit at some of these parks. So take them as a risk, because if you're a better hitter, you might not be the best park. This might not be the best park for you to play at. So now let's talk about hitters parks. These are the parks like your Ship It Stadium here, where just no matter what, there's going to be a lot of runs scored if you put up good swings. Sometimes even bad swings will give you a bunch of runs. So when you're playing on the higher level of ranked, I would suggest playing these parks if you're a confident hitter. Even if you're a good pitcher, I suggest playing at these kinds of parks because, you know, sometimes you play on Legend and you get some swings where, you know, you square up a ball, but because Legend, you get the perfect PCI, the ball kind of dies. So these are the parks, that's why you see a lot of top 50 players, high caliber players play at these parks. Yeah, you can hit pretty well on them. We have Ship It Stadium, obviously, which we just mentioned. This is the most popular park. And I mean, I guess you can't really go wrong playing here. It's just on lower difficulties. I don't like playing here because I like to be able to pitch. Obviously, you see people play Coors Field as well because we talked about it before. That elevation is a big factor. And you could score a ton of runs here at Coors Field, even though it's a major league park. This is another option for you. Also, there's Shibe Park. This one is one I don't really like playing at. But you pull the ball down the lines, you're going to hit the ball out of here. And I guess some people like playing here, but it's a little bit of a weird park. I would not suggest it. And then, like I said before, some of those neutral parks can play as hitter parks sometimes. That's why I always recommend those parks, because you can get a park like Capitol Field, Franco here, where the ball kind of flies sometimes. I mean, not absurd like Ship It Field, but, you know, better than some other stadiums. There aren't really that many just raw hitter parks. That's why you see so many people play at Ship It. Also, some people like to play at Laughing Mountain Park, but, you know, I've played here and the ball dies sometimes, but apparently the ball flies here, I guess. I really am not entirely sure. That batter's eye in center field is rough, though, because if you have a lefty who's kind of sidearmed his release, the ball is going to kind of get caught in that white sign out there. So it's tough to read their release if you're hitting, like, strike zone cameras. And then finally, you have your pitcher's parks. And honestly, most of these minor league parks fall into this. But, you know, even though this game is a hitter's game where the hitter's going to get the win most of the time, there is a benefit to choosing a pitcher's park. Blue River Stadium is one that I see sometimes. Majestic Greens, I despise playing here because it's impossible to hit for me. But, you know, that's why it's a pitcher's park. Bayfront Park, like we mentioned before, the elevation is so low, and especially if you play here at nighttime, sometimes it's tough to put up big runs. And honestly, most of these parks are kind of on the fence. I really don't play at all these minor league stadiums. What I recommend to you is try one of these stadiums that we suggested if you are a better hitter, better pitcher, or whatever you feel. And honestly, the thing with stadiums is that you don't really know what's your favorite stadium until you try it out and like it. So if you're just starting out in Diamond Dynasty, try out a bunch of stadiums, give them a go, see what fits your play style, because you don't really know what you're best at until you play a bunch. And really, stadiums are important, but aren't the biggest deal when you're playing this game, especially if you're playing on All-Star difficulty. Really, on the lower difficulties in the game, you put up a good swing, it's going to get rewarded. This is mostly a factor if you're playing on Hall of Fame or Legend. I mean, sometimes on Hall of Fame, it plays really weird where the ball flies, and sometimes it just doesn't. So take that as you will. And if you have a stadium that you already like, make sure to put that down in the comment section below. If you disagree or agree with my opinions, make sure to comment as well. Just kind of a breakdown about how stadiums work in the game and how you should go about making your own decision for stadiums. And before we end here, I think we're going to do another video this week where we're going to talk about lineup suggestions and breaking down your guys' lineups. So what we'll do is I'll take I'll take screenshots of all of your lineups, and we'll break them down and see where I suggest you correct that. So if you want to take part in this video, if you want to have your lineup be critiqued, whether you're just starting the game, you don't have many players, or you have the godliest squad of all squads, make sure to join the Discord in the link down below, and then post them in the MLB lineups channel there, and we'll go through it there. And if you can't for some reason join Discord, or you don't want to join it, make sure to tweet them on the Twitters and at me at the Scann on Twitter, and then we'll go through that hopefully this week if we get enough submissions. But other than that, I think that's going to be about it. I appreciate you all watching this video. We'll be doing more videos throughout the week, so make sure to subscribe if you have not already, and I appreciate you all hanging out. I will see you all in the next one. Deuces. Zach Britton is poop, and the only reason he's in here is because he's the back end. He's literally just the back end of the pen reliever for me. You gonna play?